Hi there, we're back doing a little assembly, but first I thought I'd give you an update on the cleaning. So here it is, post-clean. I took my sweet time and made sure to get rid of all of that sand and dirt. So basically what I did is pretty much hosed it down with WD-40 and using 3 rags. I had the first rag to get the major junk off, second rag to get the fine stuff, and then hose it down and wipe it down with a nice clean rag. And I'm happy to say that I could find no damage whatsoever, at least on anything that mattered. Very happy about that. There was some damage that I think I already filmed, but nothing to be concerned about. It's probably out of focus. This is what we're working on today. These are the rack and pinion drives. This machine has 3 of them, mainly because of the length. The Z axis is a ball and screw. But to cover this kind of distance with a ball and screw, they tend to flap up and down in the middle. You can get them big enough or wide enough to span this kind of distance, but one of those would probably cost more than this entire machine. And I have to say I'm pretty happy with this mechanism. It's definitely robust. Quality seems, well, fantastic, really. No problem there. One thing I did notice right away, if you see that block to the right in the middle there, it's obviously not square. It's not straight up and down. I kind of thought that was a bit sloppy, but turns out it's like that for a reason. Let me show you. So here we are on the right side of the gantry, and as I slide this forward, you can see what's happening there. That is, if that was straight up and down, the coupler for the stepper motor would slam right into it. It's pretty close, but as we say in CNC, clearance is clearance. Like I said, we have one more rack and pinion drive to install, and I thought I'd save that for last and film it in case it's useful to anybody in the future. So let me get set up and we'll get to it. This is a complete rack and pinion drive. You've got your stepper drive, you've got the rack and pinion drive itself. There's a tension bar. This goes between this gear and the stepper motor. And again, the quality is super high on these. Very happy with it. This is obviously aluminum. That's aluminum. This is steel. I would hope that it's slightly softer than my rack. Otherwise, if they get into a battle, I want this to lose, not the rack. But could be the same steel. I don't know. And over here, scooch over. That's all you need for tools. Just a wrench, screwdriver, a couple of Allen wrenches. Good to go. I'm glad I waited till the third one to film this because I learned quite a few tricks in that process. So you wouldn't think you could put the motor on first, but you can. It's not a problem. And that basically just kind of slides on like that, and there is some adjustment there. not as much as you might think. First thing you want is the cable facing this part of the rack and pinion. It just looks better, and there's going to be a cable tray on this side. You'll see. So, just drop all these in. And going back to the design, you can see that these screws actually, or the nuts, are actually captive in this slot, which makes life much easier. Assembly, I should say. It's not really doing that much for my life. And that is the wrong one. Okay. So I lied. There's actually 3 Allen wrenches. So once you get that going on, you want to keep these loose because it will need to move around a little bit. So here's a interesting feature here. You have this, if you loosen the bolt, you have this concentric piece of metal. What that does is you can move this up and down, bring that right over nice and tight, screw down the bolt, and that'll keep it from, you can put tension on this belt, and it'll also keep it from being sucked in out of alignment. So that's good. So next you need to take this apart. Mainly because there is a screw down here you're going to need to get to. If you can see that, I'll pop it right out, like so. So take those apart. This is going to mount on the machine, obviously. So let's go over to the motor. First thing, got to take out the key. Okay, the other two came out much easier than that. Not sure what happened there. Anyway, that's gone. So I just noticed that the camera stopped, but that's basically all you have to do on the bench. We'll move over to the side of the machine and install this onto the CNC. There, you can see there's 2 bolts, 2 holes in this bottom plate. One's for the tensioner and one is for the rack and pinion drive. If you're confused about which way it goes, just look at the rail. You can see it. There's a lot of space on that end. And if we come down here, you can see that goes pretty much all the way to the end. So that tells us that the rack and pinion drive bolts here and that tensioner bolts on the long end. Okay, this part is pretty simple. First we'll mount this, and like I mentioned, you have to remove this nut. That goes right in like so. All right, then we want the tensioner. So we want the spring on the outside, and then we want to screw this. It's becoming apparent. This is not a great shot for this process, but you get the idea. You want to keep everything loose so it can twist until you get all the screws in. And when you're in production, you definitely want to grab some of the threads with this bolt on the back side of this collar. So that's good for right now. Actually, I did that too soon. Live to drive, people. You want to sneak on your belt before you go too far. Another reason to keep this loose, so you can slide it down for the belt. All right. Okay. So that's about it. We still need to dial in the pressure on the tensioner and obviously tighten these up once we're ready to go. Actually, I'll bring you in on that real close. So now that we have it assembled and the belt is in place, first thing we want to do is loosen this up. Just put a little bit of pressure on there, not too much. Give it a good twist. And that'll stop our motor from dropping down. All right, so like I said, there's a lot of adjustment to be done here yet, but it is installed. It's really just that easy. And you can see what we got going on there. Oop. Wheels are up. So that's it for the basic hardware. There's really not much left to install. But we are by no means done with Allen wrenches and wrenches. Two things. As you saw in the last video, we got this gantry up with a chain hoist and then we just bolted it down. But, so I have no confidence that this face right here is at right angles to this plane, nor am I confident that this plane is at right angles to this plane. So we still got a lot of mechanical, like I said, a lot of wrenches, a lot of Allen wrenches. But before we need to worry about all that, or actually before we can test any of that, we need to get this thing moving under its own power. So I have some industrial cable here, nice shielded cable. I'm going to repurpose that to power the stepper motors. Now we do have some of the devices here. We have a power supply. We have 4 Gecko drives. These are the G203Vs, I believe. We have an Ethernet smooth stepper and a breakout board and a couple of doodads over there. I'm also working on the controller box, which is going to mount on the back end there. That's going to be a tremendous amount of work in its own right. So the plan is to use this piece of plywood as a giant breadboard, and we're going to see if we can just get this thing up and running, see if we can get this puppy to growl, purr, whatever. So I have a computer to build, I've got a ton of wiring to do, and that's what's on the agenda today. So I'm going to turn the camera off and get to it.